Breaking news. Michael Moore says in a press conference, the key to happiness in life is a well-balanced, nutritious diet full of clean foods, plenty of exercise, and good rest. In other news, Stormy Daniels comes out, announces that she's going to change career paths and become a marriage counselor, promoting the idea of good, healthy, monogamous relationships for peace of mind and good health. And also in the news, former CIA Director John Brennan comes out and decides to call the President of the United States a traitor. Treason! All this and more on today's episode of the Arch Advocate Podcast. Let's get down to it. As you can imagine, my inbox is being flooded by the people who listen to this show and are leftists talking about, "Ooh, what do you say, Pete? What do you say about this treasonous Trump man? Look at the CIA director. John Brennan said he was treasonous." Yes, let's break this down. Right? The wires are just burning up right now. We're going to read a couple of those messages, and I'm going to answer some of your questions. But first, John O. Brennan, former CIA director from 2013 to 2017, he tweeted out, "Donald Trump's press conference performance in Helsinki raises to and exceeds the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanors. It was nothing short of treasonous." He's just accused the President of the United States of treason. So that's heavy. "It was nothing short of treasonous. Not only were Trump's comments imbecilic, he is wholly in the pocket of Putin. Republican patriots, where are you? Triple question mark sign. Oh, I'm right here, John Brennan. And I'd like to remind you that you voted for the guy who was the head of the Communist Party USA in 1976. So John Brennan, the very reason why Trump got in office is because our system has been collapsing for so long that a communist became the leader of the CIA. You want to know where the Republican patriots are? We're just waiting for you guys to push it too far. And when you do, John, you're at the top of the list, brother. Now look, there's a number of different ways to look at this, all right? I've already heard even people on Fox News talking about, oh, this is really a breakdown, that Donald Trump shouldn't have said it that way, he should have said it a different way. I've heard, of course, we already know what CNN says. Oh, he's a traitor, he's treasonous. Now, I would like to point out that this week, CNN is not talking about immigration and families being separated at the border anymore. No, nor are they parading David Hogg in front of the TV and the Parkland survivors of that shooting. They're not talking about that anymore. Nor are they talking about the new Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, right? Because this is who they are. This is the effect of mainstream media. It's like, let's just move on to the next big thing, right? We gotta keep this fire stoked, man. It's kind of like in the music industry, like in the 70s and kind of into the 80s and prior to that, it was like you had to be good at music if you were going to be a famous musician, right? We had a lot of ugly people who were like Janis Joplin, right? You had, James Taylor, right? Like you didn't have to be pretty to be in music, but then the music industry decided like, oh no, we just need younger and hotter and younger and hotter, and they just kept throwing all the Britney Spears and the whoever, like, Ariana Grande and whatever. And it's like, man, these people, I don't know if, like Katy Perry, for example, you want to see like what I'm getting at. There was a recent concert where Katy Perry and Dolly Parton sang together. And Dolly Parton, God bless her soul, in her very old age, was blowing Katy Perry off of the stage. And you could tell she meant to do it. She's like, look, I'm Dolly Parton, like I'm an actual singer. Like, you're a person who can carry notes, and you're hot. People want to stick their dick in you. That's why you're famous. Because when your looks fade away, your ability to carry musical notes is not going to carry you into future fame and money. Dolly Parton, like, you should watch, like, go YouTube, just Dolly Parton and Katy Perry singing together, and Dolly Parton just wrangles her, and blows her off the stage as if to say, don't ever invite me onto a stage again. Don't ever come to me. Like, People that are allowed to sing with me, most of them are dead. You know what I mean? Like Whitney Houston. You know what I mean? But the music industry was just like, you know, they just got into this funk, and they're still in it, where it's just like younger, hotter, younger, hotter. And then as soon as those girls, right, once they reach about age 24, the music industry just discards them, and they go find another 16-year-old to throw up on stage and have them prance around and, you know, rub their cooch or whatever. You know what I mean? Well, this is the same thing that the news is doing. It's just like, just give me another story, anything, just give me something else. Give me newer, give me hotter. And then they forget, right? And the people who watch the news, they just forget. It's like, oh no, there's actually a problem down at the border. Oh no, you know, like there was an actual thing that happened at Parkland that involved the sheriff, that involved the FBI, and they are in part responsible for why those kids died. Don't forget that, people. The news cycle it's a disturbing thing. But just to point out, like, hey, Democrats, you know, you people that wrote me in that I'm going to be addressing some of your concerns, don't forget this outrage that you have today. It's the same outrage that you had 2 months ago or whatever about the Parkland shooting. And guess what? 2 months from now, you're going to have forgotten all about this. But I won't, right? Because I'm not a fish. You know what I mean? I have an attention span that lasts longer than 30 seconds. So let's just dive into this, right? Treason. Treason is the word that's being used here. John O'Brien, Donald Trump's press secretary, says treasonous. And Rand Paul tweets back, this coming from a guy who voted for the Communist Party USA candidate in 1976. Give me a break. Here, I'll say it for you, Mr. Paul. Hey, Brennan, would you shut the F up? You're a communist. You are the reason why the American people voted for a New York City real estate mogul. That's why. You're the reason why. You're the reason why, because the rest of the United States has been noticing for a long time that our government, we've let you run roughshod for so long that even a communist became the leader of the CIA. We don't trust you anymore, Brennan. You can shut the fuck up. Pardon my language, everybody. I try to keep it Christian around here. But this is from you, John Brennan. You commie. You shut up. Now listen. Let's get into this. Treason. As you know, I'm a word snob, so let's consult first Merriam-Webster, right? Everybody slow down is what I'm trying to say. Everybody slow down for a second here. That word treason, that carries with it the death penalty. Like if you ever get accused of treason, you are automatically in the running for the death penalty. All right, so let's be very careful and be very precise with our words, shall we? Treason. Definition of treason, according to Merriam-Webster since 1828. The offense of attempting by overt acts to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance, or to kill or personally injure the sovereign or the sovereign's family. That's why what Peter Fonda did was treason, right? Well, or at least could be considered treason. It's like you made verbal or written threats against the leader of the free world's family, against his son. So, like, if Peter Fonda were to face justice on that, which I think I speak for all of us when I say I would still like to see that, right? Then the charge would be treason, and one of the things that would be on the table is death, right? Definition number 2, the betrayal of a trust. The betrayal of a trust, all right? So it's kind of like, betrayal of a trust. And that can mean a lot of things, right? Man and a woman, they're married, and the woman cheats on her husband, the man cheats on his wife. That's a betrayal of trust. Is it not? Betrayal of a trust that involves more than 2 people, if those 2 people have kids. Why is that not treason? Right? I'll get there. When a pastor, right, a preacher gets caught banging his secretary, right, and the whole community feels it, right, because a religious leader has gone down. He has to leave the ministry, and it causes a a dysfunction in people's faith, because it's like, man, I thought you were the guy that was supposed to have it right, and now you're screwing your secretary. Why are you doing that? That's a betrayal of a trust too, is it not? Why is that not treason, right? Or when a mayor does something or whatever, it's like there is betrayal of trust on that level, but there's still not treason. But it's the same thing, isn't it? Why is it not treason? Well, treason is when you betray the trust of everyone, right? When you betray the trust of everyone. When the FBI, okay, now let's get into this really quick, and I'm gonna trust me. I'm gonna read a message from listener Ozzy. I'll get there, but let's try to narrow this down a little bit, right? Because treason. Let me read. I'll read this to you. This is from our own sort of. As a nation, like defining like what is treason, what kind of penalties it comes. This is code 2381, definition of treason. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title but not less than $10,000, so on and so forth. Right? What is treason? Right? Giving material or otherwise any sort of support to your enemy. Right? That's one way of looking at it. Like those two, that man and that wife that after the nuclear bomb was invented, they sold the secrets to Russia. I don't know if a lot of you people know this, but that's the only reason that anybody else on the planet has the capability to create nuclear weapons is because of those two people. A man and his wife, and they were found guilty of treason and they were put to death. Their name escapes me right now, but it's something that's actually easy to remember. I just can't remember it right now. Treason, right? It comes with the death penalty, and it has to do with a number of things, but one of them is betraying the trust of the people, or using the power of the people against the people. That's a betrayal of trust, and it's treason when it's done on a national level or by an entity that represents the entire nation. That's why it's different when a preacher does it. That's why it's different when a husband or a wife does it, or a mayor. Right? Because you're betraying everybody, but you're only betraying everybody in your little circle. But when it's the entire nation, that's different. That's treason. Right? So I ask you this, right? Go back to the 1960s when the FBI, right, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the most comprehensive police unit on the planet, right? Are they not an arm, if you will, or a representation of the authority of the people of the United States? They are a government entity, and you and I are the government. Every American citizen is the government. Is it not? Am I wrong in that? Or is that absolutely dead on balls accurate? Right? So when the FBI surveilled, harassed, and threatened the life of Martin Luther King Jr., that was a betrayal of trust of the American people. That was the FBI, which belongs to the American people, terrorizing an American person. That's treason. That's treason. You're using your power to terrorize the very people that you are there to protect. Right? When the FBI is found running an investigation into Hillary Clinton and then absolving her of any wrongdoing before they had interviewed a single person. Well, the FBI is they're not some group that's outside of you. They are a representation of you. They are you. And when they do things like that, it's the same as you doing it. Do you understand that? That's why they keep saying, like, look, we're getting into very dangerous territory here because we're having a different set of standards of legal repercussions for one group of people as opposed to another. If you did the same thing that Hillary Clinton did, you would go to prison forever. You would go to prison until you died. Right? So clearly we have, a difference there. And that's, you see what I'm saying? That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. When we have the Secretary of State being grilled by Congress about Benghazi, and she says, "Oh, what does it matter anyways?" That is a big effing problem. You couple that with Peter Strzok and the fact that the FBI, did what they did to Martin Luther King and a whole list of other abuses of power, and the fact that a goddamn communist became the leader of the Central Intelligence Agency. And I don't use goddamn in that context as an insult or as a curse. I'm saying that guy abused his power, and God, if you read the scripture, he holds that in damnation. You know what I mean? God is not fond at all of abuse of power, right? Because power is his. And when you abuse it, you're abusing something that is his. It's totally different subject. But anyways, a communist became the leader of the CIA. That's a huge problem. And that's how we got to the point where people were like, look, just give me anybody who's not from Washington. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the brain surgeon guy who has no experience in politics. Ben Carson. Let Ben Carson be the president, even though he's not a politician, has no experience being a politician, and he's just a brilliant surgeon. Fine. Just anybody other than these people. That's how John Brennan, that's how we got to where we're at. You want to know where the Republican patriots are? I'm sitting right here, you son of a bitch. And me and my brothers, we're waiting for you people. We are waiting for you people to try to overthrow the government and to finally take that final piss on the Constitution that you've been waiting to do. Yeah, John Brennan. You don't think we got our eye on you? Every patriot in America right now is watching very closely to what's happening and praying to God that this all gets resolved amicably. None of us want to fight. But all of us know that when Thomas Jefferson said what he said about the tree of liberty getting watered, we know that that wasn't just a platitude. We know that he wasn't just using flat, empty words, that he was speaking a truth. And John Brennan, and you of your ilk, and Cohen, your buddy Cohen, who's over there talking about you, sir, should get a Purple Heart. That's who you are. That's who your people are. You're morons. Your people are Maxine Waters and Representative, Congressman Cohen, right? And the rodeo clown lady from Miami-Dade. Those are your people. Peter Strzok, that's your guy, right? John Brennan saying that the president committed treason. Okay, let's walk it back then. Oh, and by the way, just before I get into it, because we're going to look into what Donald Trump actually said, right? I think that's important. Because the one thing you'll notice in the news is you're hearing these people talking. He's like, well, President Trump basically said this. Well, President Trump, without so many words, he basically said that. And it's like, we have a recording of what he actually said, not basically said. We can go back to what he actually said. We can hear it. We can see it happen. And we can see it as many times as we want. Thanks, Google. Thank you, YouTube. I can just go back and I can replay it over and over and over again, and I can see what the guy actually said. I don't need to know what he basically said when I can go and find out what he actually said. So we're going to get into that. Where was I going? I forget. I was going to say something really profound and deep, but I'm not going to do that because I forgot what I was going to say. This message is from listener Ozzy. He says, Pete Dobson, you took an oath as a Marine to defend this country from foreign or domestic enemies. What say you? Well, first, it's the way it's written is from all enemies, foreign and domestic. But anywho, what do I say? And then he cites the U.S. Code 2381, treason. Well, okay, tell you exactly what I think, Ozzy. Where's the treason? Why don't we take a look, have a listen to what Trump actually said? right? And try to figure out if this is treason. Here we go. Oops. Here, hold on.
Now, with the whole world watching, tell President Putin, would you denounce what happened in 2016, and would you warn him to never do it again?
All I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. I will tell you that President Putin was extreme.
You'll have to forget that last, there was a little break there. It was edited. I'm getting this press clip, God help me, from Guardian News. Forgive me, dear God, for using anything that the Guardian has put up. What did he say? What did he say? Was that treasonous? What did he just say? He said, well, I've got my Security Council. They said Russia did it. Just got done talking to President Putin. He said he didn't do it. What do you want from me? You know, what do you want? And then he goes on to say, furthermore, President Putin says, hey, I'll tell you what, why don't you get your security people over here and we can investigate it from this end, right? And then he goes on to say, we really need to find out what was in those emails that Hillary Clinton destroyed, right? Now, you might be thinking, well, what does Clinton's emails have to do with President Trump committing treason? I'll tell you exactly what it has to do with. Uranium-1. Remember that? Secretary of State Clinton sealed a deal with Uranium-1, selling a whole bunch of our uranium to Russia. So I ask you this, liberal listener or Aussie, If yesterday, if President Trump had announced that he just sold a whole bunch of the material that you need to make nuclear bombs to Putin, would you not be screaming from the rooftops, right? But it's okay that Hillary Clinton did it, and furthermore, she used her massively powerful amount of political influence to seal that deal. That to me is treason. That is giving material supply to I was going to get to this point a little bit later, but to an enemy. And furthermore, is Russia our enemy? I'm 45 years old. I grew up at the end of the Cold War just like the rest of you. Everybody I knew, just like you, everybody I knew, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, everybody that I knew that was older than me lived their whole lives under the Russian threat, right? And I got to see that whole thing end. Yes, the Soviet Union, which, by the way, is no longer a nation. Let's not forget that. They're not there. They were our enemy. Russia, unless I missed the memo, they're not our enemy. Are we at war with them? Have we declared anything like, okay, these are the enemy? Do we even have embargoes against them? I mean, I'm just asking here. Because it kind of looks to me like they're just, we have an adversarial and, contentious relationship with Putin and with Russia. But are they the enemy? Right? Well, you would have to say no, since even the most bedwetting liberal is not going to deny that Hillary Clinton sold Russia a whole bunch of our uranium. If they were our enemy, that would be treason. Would it not? See what I'm saying? Catch-22. You have to answer that question, don't you? You have to answer that question. And the only way for a liberal to get out of that question is this. No, they're not our enemy. That's why Hillary Clinton is not a traitor. Because if they were our enemy, what she did would have been treason. So therefore, you have to also admit that Russia is right now not our enemy. They're not our enemy. And then we get to the idea of treason of supporting your enemy. Right? That's what treason is support, giving aid or comfort or material to your enemy. Did President Trump give them anything? Other than a nod like, well, my security team says this and Putin says that. What are you going to do? Right? How is that support? How is that treason? One, they're not our enemy, and two, I didn't see him giving him anything other than, I don't know. I mean, there's been an investigation going on into this for a year and a half, and still not even Mueller and his team have been able to find anything of any significance. So what do you want from me? Right? If you want evidence that Putin, interfered with our elections, you got to go talk to Bob Mueller. He's been working on it for a year and a half, and the most he's been able to come up with is $180,000 in Facebook ads. That's it. That's literally all there is. That is all there is. 160 or 180,000. It was one of those two. It was less than $200,000 that went to Facebook ads that were being ran from a company that was in Russia or something like that. But that's literally the whole, so Russia ran Facebook ads, and they spent the amount of money that it would cost you to buy a condominium in Taos, New Mexico. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of money. You want to make a whole case out of that? You go right on ahead, Bob Mueller. Right? And we'll be looking forward to you wrapping that up now that Peter Strzok is completely defamed, just completely, that guy's out of the picture, right? Your little thing with Peter Strzok and former, Director Comey, those people are, hey, Democrats, those people are no longer on the table. They have been successfully removed, debunked, defrocked, whatever term you want to use. Those people are no longer a part of the equation. So treason. Do you think what Donald Trump did was treason? Okay. All right. You're saying that for him to stand up there and say, well, I got my guy saying yes, I got this guy saying no, and, I'm just trying to make friends with this guy right now. So, who knows? We'll see. You think that's treason? You think that's worthy of death? You want to see Donald J. Trump killed for saying that? Because that's what treason comes with. It comes with the death penalty. You're saying that him standing there and saying, my security agency says Russia did it, and Russian people, mainly the president, who I just got done talking to for a couple hours, he said he didn't do it. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You think that's worthy of death? Treason. Okay, you go ahead and you think that. And the rest of us rational people, we're just going to keep moving forward. And the people at Fox News, let me just address this too. You go back and you listen to the critics on Fox News, the people who are criticizing what Donald Trump said on Fox News, and you will hear these words over and over and over. President Trump basically said. President Trump basically said. Basically said. Basically said. No. You can actually quote him. You can play the tape back. Tape. Look how old I am. You can play the recording back and you can hear what he actually said. Not basically. Actually. You can find out what he actually said. You can see it. Guess what, dummies? The rest of us can too. I listened to this. Okay, sure. You want a concession? Here's a concession. Yes, I would have preferred that Donald Trump took a different stance on that matter. All right? I will say that. Now, let me say something else. I am not the leader of the free world, nor am I a multi-billionaire from all of my years and years and years and years of being a real estate mogul in the toughest town in America to be a real estate mogul. That guy knows how to get deals done. There's a pretty good chance that he has an ulterior motive here, right? To try to get Putin to come to the table and give him what he wants. And furthermore, if you listen to the rest of what Donald Trump said, and the way that it ties into the Hillary Clinton emails, which was the very next words out of his mouth. Here, let me play it for you. Here, hold on. So I'm just going to press play right from where I left off.
Strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer. The probe is a disaster for our country.
The probe.
I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all. Everybody knows it.
As to who is to be believed and to who is not to be believed.
Here, he's going to get to
no
it in
one
a second.
if you take this. Where did you get this idea that President Trump trusts me or I trust him? He defends the interests of the United States of America, and I do defend the interests of the Russian Federation. We should be guided by facts. Could you name a single fact that would definitively prove the collusion? This is utter nonsense.
What happened to the server?
Here we go.
What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentleman that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary Clinton's emails? 33,000 emails, gone, just gone. I think in Russia they wouldn't be gone so easily. I think it's a disgrace.
So listen, that to me is the hook, right? Why did President Trump, who's been so brazen up until just a couple of days ago, we all saw it. We all saw him walk into NATO and said, okay, all you little welfare recipients, y'all are going to start paying your bills right now. I don't want to see a piece of paper in front of me asking me for my signature saying that you're going to get around to it in 5 years. I mean to tell you, you are going to start paying your bills right now, or else I am not going to pay my bills. And furthermore, for all the bills that the United States has already paid of your bills, you are going to pay all of that back right now. That's the kind of balls that we saw just days ago. Just days ago. Right? He went over to North Korea. I'm sorry, he didn't go up to North Korea. But he went over there and met, in South Korea, he met with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un. After calling him Little Rocket Man and, my button's bigger than yours, right? That guy's got stones and he knows when and how to use them. And he brought peace. The beginnings of peace in North Korea, that's happening. NATO is right now scratching out those checks. You know what I'm saying? Like it's working. So you think, in just the last 2 days or 3 days, whatever it's been, you think he just forgot how to use his balls? You think that's what's happening? Okay, maybe. I don't know the man. Maybe that's what's happening. But is that consistent? Maybe he's tired. I mean, he has been on a pretty long, road trip. Maybe he just got worn out, right? Maybe Putin's some kind of wizard, right? Or maybe the guy's making deals. And maybe he's using this pressure, because right now, that whole Russia collusion investigation, it is completely imploding. Peter Strzok is gone, right? John O'Brien, he's been found out, right? His credibility is gone. You know what I mean? The left's attention span it's absolutely mind-boggling how, it's this story next week, and next week CNN will be running something else, right? So we know that leftists, it's like, you people with your Russian collusion and your it was okay for President Obama to separate those kids, but it's not okay for it to happen while President Trump is president. Like, you've been found out, right? You're hypocrites, and you've been found out. You're not going to win this one. And what I see, right, from my experience as a commodity trader, right, as a guy who had to pay attention to politics and economics on a moment-by-moment basis for many, many years of my life, what I'm seeing is something totally different. I just heard President Trump leverage this anxiety with Russia. All the anxiety that the left has over this Russia collusion, that's a commodity that can be used. It can be cashed in. And now I see him doing it. He's taking all of that anger and hatred and anxiety that the left has as they're so focused on this Russia collusion thing, and he just turned it around and took it all and said, give me those 33,000 emails. Let's find out what the truth is. That's what I see, right? Now look, that's what I was going to say earlier. When I told you I forgot what I was going to say. I want to tell you right now, and this is not the place for it, and I'm sorry that this is coming at this point in the podcast, but there's a lot of podcasts out. There's thousands of podcasts out there. For you guys listening, I appreciate you. All right? I appreciate you listening to me, because you have a lot of choices, man or woman. There's a lot of podcasters out there, and I heard Owen Benjamin talking about this the other day. And it really resonated with me. It's like, oh yeah, that's something that I hold dear as well. Owen Benjamin was talking about it, and he was saying, look, I'm never going to say what I think people want me to say. I'm just going to tell you what's on my heart. That's it. Right? I don't care if it offends you. I don't care if you agree with me. I hope you do, but ultimately, I am responsible for my own conscience. I have to get through my life. I don't have to get through your life. You have to get through your life. I have to get through my life, and I have to do it with the belief that I'm living in the truth. Right? I have to believe that the words that come out of my mouth are this is the truest representation of my thoughts. Sometimes I screw up the words, or I grab the wrong one, or whatever. You know what I mean? But I'm never going to tell you words that I think you want to hear. Right? Even when I do clickbait titles, it's always done with a sense of humor. You know what I mean? It's done because it's it's kind of funny. In my mind, I'm hilarious. But I'm never going to. My promise to you is I don't care if you agree with me or not. Right? There's nothing. Listen, there's 7 billion people on the planet right now. There's no way I can please everybody. Right? I'm never going to tell you things that are not the way that I see it. And I'm not sitting here making excuses. Listen, if the President of the United States is committing treason, I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Ronald Reagan. I don't care if it's George Washington, who was my favorite, president. Abraham Lincoln. John F. Kennedy. I don't care. I don't care. If a president of the United States is committing treason, or anybody else, I want them prosecuted and put to death. But you're using that word treason like it's just, like it's a Costco handout, a food sample. Just throw that word around. It's you need to be very careful with that word. That word has a very significant meaning. And it doesn't mean guy said some things that I don't like. That's not what treason is. Everybody's not Hitler. Everybody that disagrees with you is not a Russian bot. And saying to the whole world in front of the president of Russia, hey, well, my director says, yes, Russia did, try to influence the election by running a bunch of Facebook ads. And Putin says he didn't. Well, what do you want from me? That's not treason. Right? The best argument that you can make is that he said something that you believe is very stupid. Okay, well, fine. Well, what would you have said? Right? Because at first when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, that didn't sound great. But then when I watched him moments later tie that into the Hillary investigation, and notwithstanding that we know, according to WikiLeaks, that was it WikiLeaks or was it Kim.com? Who put out that Hillary Clinton email saying, if that motherfucker wins, we're going to hang by nooses. She meant that. That woman is dirty, and we are going to find out how dirty she is. And that's what President Trump, in my opinion, that's what he did. He took all of that anger and that angst that the left has for him right now, and he transferred all of that energy and put it on the focus of the Hillary Clinton emails. Because in those emails, we're going to find out about Uranium One. We're going to find out about where the money went. We're going to find out a whole bunch of stuff. Right? Why would you hide your email servers and destroy them and do the bit bleach on them? Like, why would you do that? Oh, it was just normal housekeeping. I don't do that in my housekeeping. Do you? When you throw away computer components, do you smash them with a hammer and then pour chemicals on them to get rid of? Do you do that? No. The only reason to do that would be to hide it. But guess what? There's no such thing as getting rid of digital information anymore. It's out there somewhere, right? We need to get to the bottom of that. That's what I saw President Trump doing. So treason. No. All right, next email. This is from, you remember last week, bedwetting liberal, New York corporate attorney, a 1%er who spends a lot of his time bitching about the 1%. So he's basically Bernie Sanders. He writes me, he says, oh man, your boy Trump is a disgrace. Oh, damn! Let's talk about this press conference. Your hero just showed the world that he trusts a merciless KGB agent over his own intelligence officials. Sorry. That's from listener Sam, who was on the show last week. Well, Sam, at this point, I trust the KGB more than I do the FBI. Right? Everybody knows Putin is a former KGB guy who persecuted Christians and, presumably put them to death back in the, communist days. But we all know that, Putin's not a good dude, right? However, you're trying to make the case that, he trusts him more than he trusts the intelligence agencies. Well, I don't know that that's accurate. I think that he can equally distrust both. I think both can be true, right? You think about it. You people that I don't think you're seeing what's actually happening here, right? Do you realize who Peter Strzok was? What he was in charge to do? The duties that he was charged with? To investigate Hillary Clinton. And he absolved her of any wrongdoing before he interviewed a single soul. Before he even looked into it. He had already decided that Trump needed to be impeached within days of his being elected. Right? Like that is some evil shit that's going on there. Right? And if it was just that one time, if it was just this one thing, then I would say, well, maybe we are misunderstanding Peter Strzok's intent. Right? But the FBI has a long and glorious record of abusing their powers, as I said before. It goes all the way back. You can go back to even to Martin Luther King Jr. They surveilled him illegally, right? Back then, there was no, FISA. There was no FISA court in the early 1960s. The FISA court came about in 1975, 74. There's no FISA court back then. There was no court to go and say, well, we want to surveil an American citizen. They did it on their own. They did it illegally. They broke the Fourth Amendment by doing that. Am I right in that? Yeah. That's the FBI. Obviously, it's not all of them. There are very good FBI agents who are holy and just and are there to do their job and protect Americans, and God bless those people. The rest of American patriots have your back. But it's just like in any other organization. You can go to any organization in the world and go to church on Sunday. Most of those people are going to be good, hardworking, salty-eared kind of people, but one of them's going to be an evil son of a bitch doing horrible shit. One of them is, there's actually a mathematical explanation for this. It's called sigma, but we'll get into that another time. Not everybody's good, right? And when we see the FBI surveilling Martin Luther King Jr. at a time when there was nobody to ask permission to do that back then. So it was against the law of the land, of the people of the United States. Not only did they surveil him, they harassed him with phone calls and written letters, which we have copies of. We have copies of those letters. And in those harassing letters was the third category: threats against the man's life and the lives of his children. That's the FBI. That's what the FBI did. We know that the FBI has done dirty things. And so when it comes to Peter Strzok, and when he gets up there and says, well, I don't know what bias means, duh! It's like, oh no, you have a long history as an organization of doing things like this. Therefore, we cannot afford to look the other way on this Peter Strzok, because you and your friends and your predecessors, you've done this before. So you talk about Donald Trump distrusting our intelligence officials. Yeah, I distrust them too. That's why we have a Second Amendment, right? The Founding Fathers knew, like, these powers are going to be abused someday, and when you do, make sure you're armed. Or when they do. When the powers are abused, keep in mind you are free to speak, you are free to assemble, you are free to arm yourself and form a militia, you are free from having government officials come and seize your home and use it as an outpost. You are free from unreasonable search and see. You know what I mean? Like, the Founding Fathers knew this day was coming. So you wonder, Sam, you wonder if Donald Trump doesn't have any trust for American intelligence agencies. Neither do I. Neither do most people. That's why a business mogul is now the president of the United States instead of a career politician. That's why. That's why. That's why I'm going to be voting for him again in 2020. Right? Because he has far exceeded my expectations. So you start off all snarky, like, your hero just showed the world. Yeah, my hero. You goddamn right. Damn right, man. I didn't want this guy to be president. I was totally against it, except for the fact that I really, really didn't want Hillary Clinton to be president. If I was in the United States at the time, which I was not, and I can prove it, I would have voted for Donald Trump, not because I like Donald Trump, because I really, really hated Hillary Clinton, and I thought that she's a demonic shitbag. But now that he is president, and I was against it, I was like, man, this is going to be really bad for America, but it'll be more abrupt. It'll be more sudden if this guy's president. With Hillary Clinton, it'll be a slow bleed. With Donald Trump as president, we'll just bleed out real quick, and better to die fast than slow. And this man has completely exceeded my expectations, far beyond what I could have imagined. Pulling out of the Paris Accord, you know how that makes your pussy hurt, Sam? It makes me happy. Not because it's like burning some imaginary enemy called a liberal, but because the Paris Accord was another institution of politicians mooching money off of the American people under the guise of, this needs to help. We need to help China. We need to help China, man. China's the second largest economy in the world, homie. They've got money. And furthermore, you ought to see their track record of polluting, with CO2 in the last 10 years or 5 years or whatever it was. The new report that just came out. That money wasn't going to what you think it was going to. And I'm glad he did that, because it was those people are just mooching off us, just like NATO. Those people have been mooching off us for years, and I could not be more proud of our president going in there and saying, hey, all of you, from today, starting today, you pay your bills, or else I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to pay your bills anymore. All right? So either you pony up the dough that you owe me and start paying your bills, or that's it. We're not going to be funding NATO anymore. You decide. Right? When he goes in front of, the other component of the 90%, of the owner of the 90% of the nuclear bombs that are out there, it's us and them. The United States and Russia own 90% of all the nuclear bombs in the world. So that means that's basically comes down to two men, President Trump and President Putin, and they were both on stage yesterday. And for him to just stand there and say, well, that guy's, my guy, my intelligence people say yes, his people say no, or he says no. I tell you what, we should probably have a good look at the Clinton emails. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that too. So yeah, my hero, right? That's it. I think that's it for the emails. Look, you guys, don't be using that word treason unless you know for a fact that word is appropriate in its scenario, right? you can't just be throwing that word around. It's like if you have, let's say a tragedy befalls you and somebody that like a loved one or something gets hit by a bus, right, and dies. And it was an accident. The bus driver just didn't see what was going on or whatever. The kids in the back were screaming and the bus driver was distracted. And you run out there and you start accusing that person of murder. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That word murder, that comes with consequences. Now, you have to be very careful when you're using, I know that you're emotional, right? Something terrible just happened to you, and you're very emotional right now. But you can't just start throwing words around, man. Right? Now, maybe it was murder. Maybe that bus driver had a beef against your loved one. And they just use that excuse to run them over. Maybe. Maybe. But we have methods of coming to those conclusions, right? We have a legal system in place. You start using that word treason, it's like, well, you're going to have to make a case. And shame on you, Fox News. Don't be getting up there talking about, well, basically you said this basic. No. We can find out what he actually said. We can see it. Go on to the Arch Advocate website, arch-advocate.com, archadvocate.com. You follow me on Instagram there. You can follow me on Twitter. You can join the conversation on Telegram. It's down there at the bottom. All those little social media links, you can click on any one of them. If you want to support the show, give me some money. Go on to Patreon, become a monthly patron. Or if you just want to shovel out some dough on a one-time basis type thing, go on to PayPal. Real easy. I really appreciate you guys listening to the show. Leave me a message, would you? Leave me a message on my website. Tell me what you think. There's a little message box down there at the bottom. It's pretty cool. I just installed it this last week. And that's it for today, my friends. Stop using the word treason. I love you guys so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow.